Growing your business can mean big-time logistical questions, like how are we going to keep up with all these local deliveries? Let Uber Direct offer you a helping hand. With Uber Direct, you take orders on your website, app, or by phone. Then drivers who are part of Uber's courier network pick them up from your store and deliver them to your customer's doorstep. Sounds simple, right? Uber Direct helps you give your customers what they want when they want it. Offer them delivery options in under 2 hours, on the same day, or scheduled up to 30 days in advance. Plus, share real-time tracking and ETAs by text. You can keep growing your business at a price that works for you. Never pay commission or hidden charges. Just pay a fixed fee per delivery. Delivery just got better with Uber Direct. Learn more at uberdirect.com. Growing your business can mean big-time logistical questions, like how are we going to keep up with all these local deliveries? Let Uber Direct offer you a helping hand. With Uber Direct, you take orders on your website, app, or by phone. Then, drivers who are part of Uber's courier network pick them up from your store and deliver them to your customer's doorstep. Sounds simple, right? Delivery just got better with Uber Direct. Learn more at uberdirect.com.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, a comic book podcast that also talks about movies, TV shows, and of course, we typically feature a beer of the week. I am one of your two hosts, Matt. Alongside me is Lauren. As always, we are back today. We are talking our favorite horror movie kills. We are 1 week out to Halloween. You know, we're counting down some epic murders, lovely bloody scenes, all of the good stuff. So if you like what you're hearing, go ahead, subscribe, share, all of that good stuff, right? We are Hops Geek News. That's how the podcast grows. You can find us anywhere by that name, Hops Geek News, right? Take a drink every time we say it, apparently. Find us there, social media sites, all 75 of them. And then you can also go ahead and patreon.com/Hops Geek News is how you can support the show further if you wish to. Everything comes right back. For example, I'm going to be going down to MegaCon 2024 in February, and we're going to make some pretty cool stuff happen there. Thanks for hanging out with us. Beer of the week. If you've never hung out with us before, we do a beer of the week, followed by reading or watching and some news. And then, of course, our main topic. Our beer of the week is Ill Repute. It is a stout with pumpkin and spice. It pairs well with dark chocolate. I read the label wrong. I thought it was dark chocolate and pumpkin. I had just had a porter that also was dark chocolate.
I'm really sad I don't have dark chocolate.
My apologies. However, it is 8.5% ABV out of 4 Hands Brewing, St. Louis, Missouri. I picked these up along the way when I was moving from Idaho to Virginia. So Lauren's drinking the same thing. We're drinking the same beers again. We got some mix and matchups coming on lately, folks, just for you. Let's roll in to what we've been reading or watching. Now, before we do that, I want to talk about something real quick. Because something really cool happened this past weekend. I had press passes to Nightmare Weekend Richmond, which is put on by GalaxyCon. And so we went on Friday. Really cool Comic-Con. It was held at the Richmond Convention Center. We went in there. There's some cool guests, like the cast of Nightmare Before Christmas was there. The cast of Halloween Town was there. And then of Tony Todd was there, Warwick Davis, lots of really cool people. However, there's one individual that was there and they had just set up. None of the other guests had come out. So the cast, Vanessa, Omri Katz, and of course, Danny, I forget the actress's name off the top of my head. I apologize. They were all there. I know. God.
Thora Birch. She's named after Thor. Come on.
Thora Birch, Vanessa, and Omri Katz were all actually in attendance. And now I was walking around and we were just checking out the booths, Artist Alley, all that stuff. Some really cool art. For example, we got to see there's a cool comic book coffee company called The Turned. They do like a zombie comic book, but they also have like coffee that's tied into it. Really cool. If you want to check them out, I'll put the link in the bio here. Going to have them on an episode at some point. However, I was just walking, minding my business, and Omri Katz looks at me. We lock eyes, like freaking locked eyes, man. And he starts talking to me. Like I didn't go up to him. He starts talking to me. I was like,
did you steal his candy?
No, like I was going to steal his shoes actually, but we locked eyes. It was a very sensual moment. If you will. It was. It was cool. He started talking to me and I'm like, this man is talking to me. What? Now, of course, he quit acting like right after Hocus Pocus. He wasn't a fan. And so we get to talk to him, kind of an unofficial interview. Shout out to my wife, by the way, who's asking killer questions. Really good question. Like take like you handed the keys to the podcast, if you will. But no, like he quit acting. He was talking about how he didn't even know this was like a really big movie until they went to the 20th anniversary of the movie at D20.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. And that's when it really hit him, because he disappeared from the eye. He like didn't pay any attention to it. None of that.
But it's like, I mean, I get it. Like Hocus Pocus and Nightmare, like they really didn't take off until 20 years after the fact. But still, I mean, Hocus Pocus was a staple in our house every Christmas since 93.
The movie freaking bombed, man. He was like, the movie bombed.
Because they released it in July.
Again, stupid decisions are made. And so
does he get residuals off of it now? I hope.
I didn't ask. I'm sure he does.
I mean, that's a personal question. I probably wouldn't ask that anyway.
I wasn't, especially with like the strike and stuff going on right now. It's kind of a sensitive subject. Like,
yeah,
he may not be an actor.
It's like, how much is your mortgage? Yeah.
He did mention that he now is focused on his business. He's so busy with his business, and he's in the cannabis industry. So he's in Los Angeles cannabis industry. Yeah.
He's from LA. He had that tie-dye shirt. This was inevitable. I feel like this is what his character would have grown up to do.
Oh, without a doubt. He
moved back to LA.
Obviously he's older now. So like, he doesn't look like he was when he was a kid. However, when he talks, you can still hear his voice hasn't changed that much like some people do when they get older.
But he seriously, like, had a baby face then.
He was talking about, like Salem wasn't as big on the map until this movie got really big, and that's when the whole Salem stuff really blew up as well. And they're actually going to be there this weekend, or this past weekend.
I saw that.
Up there in Salem and everything like that at the Bit Bar, which I used to frequent that arcade a lot. It's like a beer and cool old school arcade games. Like that was a really cool place to hang out. So they still get together. He goes to cons all the time, and he was like, yeah, one of my favorite things to do about these conventions is I love all the history and walking around and seeing all the cities I get to go to. He's like, I really try to do that when I can. He's like, he was excited to be in Richmond, and he was like, it's beautiful out. So there's so much history here. I want to check it out. So I don't know if he did or not, of course, but just getting to talk. I don't know. It's just like we were just hanging out, and it was like an unofficial interview. So I thought that was pretty cool. We got to meet somebody who's in like the biggest Halloween movie ever made.
Yeah, seriously. You didn't ask him to come on?
No, I didn't want to like ruin the moment and be like,
you come on my podcast?
Yeah, I'm sure he saw. I did bring up the podcast. He was like, hey, thank you for taking the time to talk. I do a podcast. We talk about beer and comics and movies and all that. And he was like, cool. He dn't ask the name, so I didn't tell him the name. Again, didn't want to.
Right.
But I didn't like, it was just an organic conversation, and I'm sure he saw our press pass because it was out there. And
we did a whole episode on Hocus Pocus
he's literally like, I'm so tall that like he was just eye level to my chest because I'm so tall. But,
and he was standing up.
Yeah. I mean, he was just standing out. He was the first cast member out. Like there were hardly any of the actors or actresses from anything out yet, but he was one of the first out, man. And
that's cool.
It was really cool. I do feel bad I didn't ask for an autograph or anything, but I also feel weird. Like, I don't know. I
just bullshitted with you, and now I'm going to pay you money to sign this.
Yeah,
it is all of it. I didn't want to pay
like. It didn't want to like. Can we get a picture because we just chatted? But then I also didn't want to be like, oh right. Do you have a card reader? Let me pull up my card real quick to get this picture with you.
Yeah.
It was just a moment, right? It was just one of those like, moments in time that I know happened. Carrie knows happened. He knows happened. We chatted. It was organic, and yeah, it was cool, man. So that was fun. Can't wait for GalaxyCon. Check that out. Anyways,
that is awesome.
Lauren, since I've been chatting away, why don't you go ahead and start off with what you've been reading or watching, and how do you like that beer?
I like this beer. It's very yummy. I had to hold it up like this so you could see my Jack Skellington face on my beer.
I did pull a glass out that was a Southern Tier and had like a pumpkin and stuff, but the beer is obviously black.
Well, that's why I made this. This is like a beer mug from the Dollar Tree that I put vinyl on. And I did it in white because I have so many Halloween beers that are dark. So none of my beer glasses show up. So I have this
makes sense.
One single one that I will definitely post a picture on the Instagram. So I will start with what I reviewed for Nerd Initiative this week. I reviewed the 5th issue of Click, Click, Boom by Image Comics. This was just a 5-issue run, so it has wrapped up. Definitely like this one. You can pre-order it if you want to just get the trade back, but you will not get it till January. It's only 5 issues. I would say just get the 5 issues. It was a lot of fun. So the premise of it is this girl doesn't talk. She communicates through Polaroid pictures. And at first it's kind of like confusing, but then you get to figure out what she's communicating. And so does the girl she meets. But the true story, though, is she's seeking revenge for something that happened to somebody she cared about when she was younger. And so you're learning throughout it why they, hurt this person, why she's seeking revenge. And she's doing all of this through Polaroids. And it's really kind of entertaining because, well, it's very entertaining, but what's really entertaining about it to me the most is the way that she's portrayed. She still has like an innocence to her. She has freckles. She wears almost like little kid clothes, but she goes out parties at night and she does all these things, but she's completely mute. But she murders people in very creative ways with her Polaroids.
Look, if there's one thing that I can say about comic books right now, it's that Image Comics is absolutely top of the game as far as comic books go. More specifically, if you really like horror, more spiritual elements, that kind of stuff, like Image Comics is having themselves an absolute year. And they also just signed on 12 new writers and artists that are coming from like Marvel and DC. So it's only going to get better. But yeah, Image Comics is amazing. And that comic book sounds, I haven't read it. I know you've been getting it because I see it drop in the Discord. I just haven't. Sometimes I'll read some of the other comics that get dropped, but I haven't read this one. So I think I might.
Yeah, no, this one's good. It's by Doug Wagner, and Doug Dobbs, I believe, is the one that does the art. But yeah, it's, sometimes it's nice to just pick up something that's just a short read. And like, honestly, I'm tempted to just reread them back to back to back, because anytime I did the review, I would then go back and check out the one before, because obviously I want it fresh in my brain if I'm going to be reviewing it, especially because some of these reviews are being seen by the creators. But with the comic book stuff, though, it's all about the art too. It's the art's just as important as the story, if not more. And because she doesn't talk, you really needed that art. But as soon as I saw that she was all Polaroids, I'm like, where's she buying this film? Yeah,
that's the other thing. It's like Amazon has Polaroid film, but it's really expensive. I don't know if anybody's checked that recently.
So another thing I read was I'm still working on Skeleton Crew. It's like a 600 something page book. So I've been, at this point, they're all short stories. The Mist was the longest one, which was only 150 pages. And the more I read, the more I'm just reeling like what a creep Stephen King is, or at least it was in the 80s. Like the way he talks about all the women in his books, it's just like,
look,
not good.
It's like riddled with cocaine and stuff when he wrote 90% of his stories. So.
Well, he starts it with, when I wrote some of these stories, my wife was expecting our second child or whatever. And I'm like, good God, do you even like your wife? Because the way you describe all the wives in these books, because they're always through the point of the view of the male lead, which makes sense because he's male. So that makes complete sense that he's doing it through the point of view of somebody who's,
well, yeah,
that he can relate to the most. That makes complete sense. I don't knock on that. But just he never paints any of the significant others in good light. There was one story with this girl where like something happened and she's basically aging backwards. And he's like, oh, she's a goddess now. She looks 16. I'm like, okay, that's gross.
Is he still married?
I believe so. But I'm reading it along with Ian
Classic
and Erica.
Mentality. Like, I hate my wife. I hate my kids.
Oh, 100%. 100%. One of them, he literally like erases his wife and his child. But some of them are like very Black Mirror-esque, because even though it was the early 80s, he has one that's about a word processor. And here's your Stanley Tim cameo. Tim had a word processor in college. I think I've even said that on here before. And he's like, I can't believe you called me out like that. So I bet he even knows as soon as I said word processor, he goes, uh-oh, here comes my cameo.
Here's my moment, man. Turn it up, turn it up, turn it up.
He's a few years older than me, and I make sure he never forgets it. Much like you do to me. So see, it's all full circle.
It's one big circle, my man.
It's the circle of life. But it's Halloween time. I'm enjoying it. And it's kind of nice that they're short stories. Like when, after I take the kids to school, I try to have some downtime before I start doing things I need to get done, read my coffee and read a short story and then move on with my day. So it's kind of a fun way to start the mornings in October. So that's what I've been reading as far as what I've been watching. I did watch Barbarian.
Oh, yeah.
Because Ian was adamant that I watch it.
Boobies.
Holy shit, that was weird. As soon as I saw that, I texted him. I'm like, what the fuck did you make me watch?
Rope you in thinking Bill Skarsgård was going to be like the thing that is the sole, driving force of this movie. And then he just dips 5 minutes in.
I don't want to say anything else because, it is a scary movie that's worth watching. Obviously, it's not what you expect. But Justin Long.
Growing your business can mean big-time logistical questions, like how are we going to keep up with all these local deliveries? Let Uber Direct offer you a helping hand. With Uber Direct, you take orders on your website, app, or by phone. Then, drivers who are part of Uber's courier network pick them up from your store and deliver them to your customer's doorstep. Sounds simple, right? Delivery just got better with Uber Direct. Learn more at uberdirect.com. Growing your business can mean big-time logistical questions, like how are we going to keep up with all these local deliveries? Let Uber Direct offer you a helping hand. With Uber Direct, you take orders on your website, app, or by phone. Then, drivers who are part of Uber's courier network pick them up from your store and deliver them to your customer's doorstep. Sounds simple, right? Delivery just got better with Uber Direct. Learn more at uberdirect.com.
Has scarred me 3 times now. Jeepers Creepers, Tusk, and now this.
Justin Long does horror exception. He's in Goosebumps too right now, and he's really good. He does something about horror like that. I know he barely does it these days, but that's like his genre, dude.
He really, yeah. I mean, because when I hear him, though, I also think of so many other things that he's been in. You know, Live Free or Die Hard. Wasn't he in Waiting too? Like Accepted. Maybe it was Accepted I'm thinking of. I can't remember if he was in Waiting. But he's in so many different things. So my head with him always goes straight to comedy because even in horror, he's trying to be funny.
Yeah.
Dodgeball. Yeah. Yes, definitely Dodgeball. But yeah, that is 3 movies that I walked away from like, ugh. And he was in all 3 of them. So Justin Long is the common denominator. I will now be very weary of watching horror movies with him in it. I watched Talk to Me, which if you want to hear our opinions on that, we are joining Josh on High on Horror. And so
is it High on Horror or is it 4 Nerds by Nerds?
4 Nerds by Nerds.
Well, he does both. So we're going on 4 Nerds by Nerds to Talk to Me. Yes.
We've been on both.
That's true. You know what?
Okay.
Look, we'll make sure you know where to find
with Josh, and we will share it on our socials too. Yes. And Loki and Gen V, which I don't think we're going to dive into those yet.
I've only watched the first episode of both, so
I'm super stoked for Gen V. I intend on watching it tonight because I got my soup juice, and
we'll have to do full season.
A certain someone is supposed to be on Gen V tonight.
It's gonna be like a 30, not even 30 seconds, be a 5-second clip. Just wait.
I'll just I'll do like I did for his nude scene. I'll just keep rewinding it.
Check out them buns. Yeah, no, I've only watched. It's the time of year, man. Like it's Halloween, so I'm literally only filling my time with horror when I'm not busy, you know, writing reviews and things like that. So I've only watched the first episode of both. I'm going to watch them. It's that time of year. Stop yelling at me. God.
Outside of Loki and Gen V, I'm all horror right now too.
Yeah. So we'll dive into, I've read, you know, Kill Your Darlings. Speaking of horror, it's also Image Comics. There you go again. Issue 2 is out. Ethan S. Parker, Griffin Sheridan are the writers. Robert Quinn did the art. Letters by John J. Hill. Now, this is very much another young girl. And so each issue starts off with a snippet of like back in the witch trial era. Like,
oh, that's cool.
The first issue starts off with the girl being burned. The second one is like this girl who thought she was in a safe area doing witchcraft. It turns out she was not, and some things happen there. And then they go to like the actual story. So Rosie, she, you know, she's this young girl, and there's something going on. Like she's very much caught up in this fantasy land in the first issue that she's drawing and having this loving relationship with her mom. It turns out her mom dies in a house fire that they blame her for. So in the second issue, she's in a mental institution. And at the end,
sounds like an episode of Supernatural.
Yeah, well, the world that she created, all these characters, there's a really small pink elephant shooting bows and arrows, like breaks her out of this mental institution, and she thinks she's seeing things. Her friend can see it too. So it's very much like an Alice in Wonderland kind of supernatural, kind of haunting type fairy tale story, which is very good. 2 issues in so far again, but the art, I can't say enough. Like the art is freaking top notch, really damn good. I was blown away by the art. And then of course the story again, it's like, I've been reading, like Image Comics also does a lot of stuff where it's these poor girls in mental institutions, because I was reading another story, a haunted girl, and she was in a mental institution as well. And I'm like, geez, what are these?
Are they all based today, or are they based in the past?
These are based today. Like there's like the flashback to the witch trials, and then this takes place, and then it flash forwards to like the current story, which is current time, and some things are gonna happen. But yeah,
I'm just thinking like more women were institutionalized back then for things that didn't need to be institutionalized for.
This is very much, they both take place today, but yeah, Image again doing really well in the horror aspect. I read Godzilla.
Like, how do you prove you're not crazy? Oh, all right, go ahead.
Anyways, talk to Stephen King.
Just be crazy. Yeah, right. Oh my God.
I did read Godzilla versus Kong versus the Justice League. Now, this story is really cool. I was very interested
going on.
Because Toho, the company who kind of owns Godzilla, basically has booked Godzilla to be like Dwayne Johnson of this universe, to where Godzilla cannot lose a fight. So I was like, all right, how are they going to do this then? Like, Godzilla is not going to be able to take on freaking Superman. Like, how is this dynamic going to work, you know? And something they did clever was the Injustice League. You know, you got Lex Luthor, Gorilla Grodd, Cheetah, Toyman's even in there somehow. And Lex Luthor's like, you are so dumb. I don't know why I let you in this league. They break into the Fortress of Solitude to steal a mother box. The plan is to send the Justice League into the Phantom Zone. However, the sensors go off because Clark is in the middle of proposing to Lois Lane, and the whole story is driven like, are you sure you want to do this? Hal Jordan's like, dude, are you sure you want to do this? And really, there's a really cool, charming relationship between Hal and Barry Allen. Like, their bromance flourishes in this one, and even that really great moment of Bruce Wayne coming as Bruce Wayne to sit down and talk man to man to Clark and be like, are you sure you want to keep how can you keep Lois safe? And then he's like, you know what? That's good enough for me.
Oh, that's why there's something like, why isn't anybody like Lois? Damn.
Yeah, well, it was more of like, from Bruce's aspect, he's worried about, hey, keeping them safe.
Gotcha.
Clark's like,
okay.
Dude, trust me, I got this. And Bruce is like, you know what? That's good enough for me. I'm proud of you, buddy. And it was a very beautiful moment.
So what universe is this where nobody likes Lois?
Yeah, everybody hates Lois instead of everybody hates Chris. But Kara and Barry and Hal and them go and save, and Toyman actually like launches this bomb, and it accidentally hits the mother box, and it sucks the Injustice League to Skull Island. And on Skull Island, they see Kong appear, and Gorilla Grodd's trying to talk to Kong. It's actually kind of funny.
Oh, that is funny.
They're like, is he like talking to him? It's like a good sequence. And they find like this control center where Toyman finds this like gemstone, and he's just like thinking of the Titans. There's a screen with all the Titans. So you see Godzilla and you see some other ones on there. And he's just like, these guys can be used against the Justice League. They're all toys, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, shut up, dude. I don't even know why you're here. And he just holds the gemstone. He's like, man, I wish I could just show them that these toys can take on the Justice League. And then that's how Godzilla gets transported to Metropolis. And now that's where issue 2 is going to pick up. And things are going to get kind of crazy. So I was wondering how this driving factor, and it's kind of cool. So now we're going to see all of this come together, beautifully well drawn, written. So check that out. I did read another book. Can't talk about officially what it is yet. Just know that this is a very, very good book. It's a very highly anticipated book. It's coming from a writer who may or may not have written Something is Killing the Children. So be on the lookout in 2 weeks for that. I watched a show called Creep Show on Shudder. It's a little anthology miniseries. It's kind of campy horror, but also bloody and kind of creepy. That was really cool. And then, of course, I watched Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. It's about...
That's an interesting title. Yeah,
it was on Shudder, and it was just like, I kept seeing a preview for this at one point, and it's about this girl. She's fascinated with death. Her brother was shot. They live in the ghetto. He was shot, killed. She drug his body away. She feels like she could prevent death, and she ends up turning him into like a Frankenstein type monster, and he goes on a killing rampage and that kind of stuff. So it wasn't a bad movie. It was pretty decent. You know, it had some good jump scares, some kills and things like that, but I would recommend watching it. That's about it. That's what I've done this Halloween so far. I have some more things I need to watch. I need to watch Gen Z.
I know, we're running out of time.
I will say I did watch Goosebumps, the whole first 5 episodes. That's actually a pretty good show, man. I know some people weren't happy with it because it wasn't a 1-for-1 shot of the Goosebumps in the 90s that we grew up with. However, they did a really good job weaving in the stories that we grew up with into the main, bigger, overarching story so far.
I don't even remember any of them. How do people I read all those when I was in elementary school.
A lot of them, like unlock core memories.
I remember the covers, but I don't remember details of.
I will say Werewolf in Fever Swamp is like the creepiest one to me personally.
I mean, I heard a bunch of Fear Street too, and watching the movies, I couldn't tell you jack shit if there was any correlation.
Yeah, I couldn't, but I will say they've done a really good job, homaging the original. And there's a pathway to where they can make multiple seasons, but not follow the same characters, if that makes sense. Like
that's good.
Play in this Goosebumps world, which I really hope they do. The rest of the season episodes are going to be dropping over the next 5 weeks. So check it out. Disney Plus.
I still need to watch Fall of Usher too. I keep hearing about that one because I watched those. I watch those every year. I just haven't
Mike
gotten to it
Flanagan.
yet.
I watched the first episode. Actually, it was pretty creepy and pretty cool. They really kind of play into some Edgar Allan Poe aspects of it, and I think it's definitely apparently episode 2 is where it really kicks off, and Mark Hamill's in it so far.
Yeah, I've heard that Mark Hamill's really good in it and creepy.
Yeah. So far, I'm really into it. So
what is it? Haunting Hill, Bly Manor, and then they had the one with the angel. I'm putting quotes around angel.
Oh man!
And then were those the only 3? So this is the 4th. I don't know why I was thinking there was another one in there that I didn't.
There was with the kids, wasn't because it was on Amazon or something.
No, I think they've all been on Netflix. All right, why don't you go ahead and kick off news and I'll go ahead and Google it so we don't have to put it on our next week.
We'll dive into some news now. So we have Deadpool 3 due to the strikes. It's set to be delayed. So a little strike update for you.
Why did they even up the fucking date? That was so stupid. It was originally November 2024. They should have just left it.
They got too antsy, I guess. I don't know. The actors are still on strike, though. I jinxed it last time. Negotiations have stopped for the time being. You know, it's like the Trade Federation. The negotiations... They stopped when 2% of the issue was that the actors and actresses wanted 2% of streaming revenue, and they pretty much were like, no, not happening. They walked away, just absolutely baffled. How
dare you want that much?
How dare you take 2% of this $1 billion revenue that we are getting, as Netflix has also agreed to up their prices to like $22 for the premium one now.
Disney is about to go up a shit ton.
Is amping up their prices, and you know Hulu is sure to follow, and all these other greedy ass
shit. Hulu is owned by Disney now, isn't it?
It's
Midnight Club was the one last year.
I didn't watch Midnight Club. I will say that
I did. Midnight Club was probably my least favorite one.
That's the general consensus. Yes. Anyways, I was in the middle of something here. I had some cooking.
Sorry. I had to calm you down.
No,
before I forgot.
Bullshit. Like, these people are so freaking greedy. It astounds me that they have the audacity. They have a whole lot of audacity and not a lot of common fucking sense. And so
that's what's going on now.
It is. Well, George Clooney, Scarlett Johansson, even, you know, Agent Coulson, Clark Gregg is speaking before Congress. However, like I said, George Clooney, Scarlett Jo are 2 examples of people that are trying to end this. And so they came to the big heads over there with $150 million, because that's all it would be, like $150 million. That's a drop in the fucking bucket.
Which is nothing.
It's a drop in the ocean. A teardrop in the ocean of the money that they make. However, too much. So that's probably the reason that Deadpool 3 is going to be delayed. No end in sight. And my last bit of news is Matthew Vaughn and Mark Miller actually pitched a Superman trilogy before Man of Steel, which was going to feature Lex, Zod, and Brainiac as the villains. Our big idea was Krypton doesn't blow up. It does eventually when Superman is grown up. Suddenly there's a max exodus, and kind of okay with not, because Superman's core story is he has to come to Earth for a reason, and the reason was Krypton dies. So like,
right,
guys, hard.
Understood why we never had a movie, and there might be a comic book somewhere that I just haven't read or heard about. They really dove into the origin story of what the fuck actually went down. Like, we only get bits and pieces of it.
There was a sci-fi show, Krypton.
Oh, that's what they are actually doing in that?
Well, I mean,
I never saw that, but it was sci-fi. Was it any good?
No, I don't think so. I never watched it, but that was what they were doing.
Somebody who knows what they're doing should do that, because like we always get glimpses of what happened, but we never get like the full story. And, you know, you're getting it like through these AI robot versions of his dad. Speaking of robot versions, so Clark Gregg went in front of Congress to speak about the harms that AI can pose. And I just thought that's awesome that he's doing that, but it's also funny because he's Agent Coulson, and last we saw him, he was a life model decoy. So you have a life model decoy talking in front of Congress about the harms of AI.
Hey, sometimes who would know more than the guy who actually was AI? So
exactly.
Just saying.
Long live Coulson. Gargoyles is getting a reboot as a live action series for Disney Plus.
So excited for this. I had all the toys and all of the stuff, man, as a kid. I'm so pumped.
Charlie Cox was spotted walking around New York Comic-Con dressed as Bluey. That's not really news, but I thought it was worth sharing because it's amazing. Somebody posted a picture. She was dressed like Electra. She's like, this is not how I expected to see Charlie Cox.
I love it so much, though.
LeVar Burton will be replacing Drew Barrymore as host of the National Book Awards. Honestly, he should have been the original host to begin with.
Drew Barrymore really tanked her reputation, huh?
So fast, too. And like, she seemed like somebody everybody loves.
They did.
It's so weird.
They didn't.
Terry O'Quinn from Lost will be joining The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. This series will debut in February on AMC and AMC Plus. We're supposedly going to be getting Rick and Michonne back and seeing where the hell Rick's been for the last, I don't know, decade now. Invincible season 2 will be on Prime November 3rd. MegaCon guest announcements will begin this Tuesday. So we should have some news there soon. And it's looking like we will both be there.
Yeah.
So
we submitted some panel options. Lauren did a supernatural trivia. And then I submitted a what if Sam and Dean were in our favorite horror movie panel, which I feel like it would be a really fun panel. There's so much to talk about and do there. That'd be fun.
That would be fun. I wonder if they'll approve either of those.
I hope they approve both.
That would be cool.
But yeah.
Which would be at the same time. No, they'll if they actually when they put out their schedule, they wouldn't do that. Because when they put out their schedule, they actually tell people if you think any of these things are overlapping that shouldn't be overlapping, let us know. Yeah. So they actually do try to make an effort. Obviously, things still happen. Did you watch the short celebrating 100 years of the Walt Disney World Company?
Can't say that I have, man.
So it's cute. It's worth watching. I will say that because the strike's going on right now, it took it away a little bit for me because they're like making it all magical. And I'm like, so pay your fucking writers. And Braille's so like, what'd you say?
Please look away from the fact that we should really just pay our people a living wage. Yeah.
But it was cute. It's all the characters like coming out of their pictures and they're doing like a group picture together. And you get to hear all these voices and, you know, all these characters interact from different movies.
Look away.
And they use
away from the living wage. But remember the magic, guys. Remember what Disney makes you feel. You should want to do this for free.
Disney is enraging me lately. I was even writing an article today for something and I'm like, of course this is extra. Of course that's additional. Like they're now charging for their Christmas stuff at Hollywood Studios as a separate ticketed event. And they've never done that before. Not even when they had Osborne lights. It's just so annoying. So Robin Williams' voice was actually used in the short. They took clips from his outtakes from Aladdin, but they did get permission of the estate. Whether or not they paid the estate, I don't know. The last bit of news is season 2 for Gen V has been confirmed as this universe continues to grow, literally in some cases.
That's true. I'm not surprised in the least that Gen V will probably
they announced it now.
Honestly, I can see them wrapping up The Boys soon, and then.
No,
that's just the way it goes. That's the way I see it. I calls it how it sees it. I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, I could see that, especially with Butcher's impending potential death.
There's only so much cat and mouse you can do between Homelander and Butcher before it kind of grows stale. It's kind of like, guys, come on. Are you going to fuck or what? Like,
well, I wonder if it'll lead to Ryan going to God You.
I mean, that would be cool. And then we see him down. That would be, like I'm saying, there's possibilities because Gen V was only a short little miniseries within the actual comic universe. So there's a lot of room you can do with Gen V versus the Boys series, again, before you kind of grow stale on the story.
So I do have a theory that I want to put out there, and I didn't want to say this before because I didn't want it to be a spoiler, but they've put Jensen Ackles all over all their social media at this point. So everybody knows
they're hyping it up.
He's coming. Yeah, they're definitely hyping it up. I think that he is going to get broken out by the kids in the forest area. I don't know how far you're into it or if any of that makes sense, but they had
watched one episode.
I don't remember which was in the first episode. So I think the kids are going to break him out thinking that they're rescuing everybody that's being held against their will in that area where they had the one kid's little brother named Sam, which Kripke said was not intentional. People were calling him out after he goes, wow, Kripke really likes naming younger brother Sam. And he goes, I didn't even put that together.
Yeah, I'm sure, Kripke. I'm sure.
But we're getting more of Jack too. So Jack's been in it more, which you'll meet Jack. He's in 13, 14, 15, I think. But he's a main character in the last 2 seasons of Supernatural.
All right. Well, there we have it. We're going to go ahead now, guys. The main event, if you will. We're going to talk our top 5 horror movie kills. We will be back in 1 spooky second. Welcome back. Like I said, top 5 horror movie kills. Let's start. Number 5, Lauren, go ahead. What is your counting down from 5 to 1? What is your number 5 horror movie kill?
All right. I didn't put mine in order like that. I just came up with 5. So I have to think about this, but I think number 5, so you even mentioned that mine were a little off. I am still somewhat new to horror. There's a lot of horror I haven't seen, a lot of classic horror I haven't seen. So some of these are going to seem a little off, but I don't care. One of my favorite kill scenes in what I consider a horror movie is in Gremlins. So when
that's like a horror movie.
But you know the bar scene where the gremlins are all just getting like shit faced, and like the one little gremlin like flashes the girl whose dad tragically died pretending to be Santa in the chimney, and then there's another table of gremlins and they're playing poker, and like all of a sudden one gremlin just takes a gun out and shoots the other gremlin, and he just starts dying laughing that he shot the gremlin. So that is my number 5 favorite kill.
I respect that one. No, it is funny. Gremlins counts. It's definitely a Christmas horror for one. Number 2, that is a classic scene. Yeah, the gremlins are out there because you don't feed, your gizmo or whatever after midnight. They turn into gremlins, and they're causing mayhem and havoc. And he just straight up just shoots and murders another one. And it's just hilarious. It's ridiculous. Go watch this movie if you haven't. It's pretty funny.
I do consider it a Christmas movie. So I did do a couple fun facts. Gizmo's voiced by Howie Mandel, which I found was really funny. And a lot of the other voices are done from the guy from Police Academy that does a.
Oh, yeah.
So he does a lot of those. And this one's kind of gross. So Christopher Columbus, which I feel like most people know him from Home Alone, but he does a bunch of movies.
Yeah.
He wrote the movie and he credited the mice in the wall of his New York apartment because during the day they were quiet and at night he could hear them going crazy.
That's disgusting.
It's really gross.
Sewer rats, man. It's New York City, of course.
The probably eating pizza in his walls.
Shit. Yeah. Hey, see, there we go. I wouldn't doubt it. That's still pretty gross. All right. My number 5 takes place Friday the 13th, number 7. Yes, it's hard to remember which is which. However, there was a really funny scene. I'm starting funny because this one, it's not bloody. It's not suspenseful. It's more or less just hilarious because it's Jason in the woods. The campers are out there camping. They're having a good time. One girl's in her sleeping bag and he just picks the sleeping bag up and he wails her across this tree.
Oh, yes, I do remember. We watched that one last Halloween. That was pretty funny.
He just was like bashes her against the tree. I was like, what? Because typically you see Jason in like all of his other way. He's like machete killing. He's cracking skulls. No, he just picks her up in a fucking sleeping bag.
Cracking skulls.
Right against the tree and she's dead. I'm just like, I don't know. It's just hilarious.
So there's an episode of Supernatural where the glampers, like the one guy dies in his sleeping bag. And I think because when I watch these older things, I'm like, that had to have been a nod to that. Like that is a very well-known kill.
It's gotta be, right? Like, again, though, like you would think about when you're out there killing campers. Yeah, the best time is to get them while they're asleep and then also to bash them against a tree in a sleeping bag. It's just like hitting a bag of popcorn or something. And, it's the whole sequence was just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. And that's why that one's my number 5, like hands down, ridiculously. And now my number 4, if you will, is from a movie called The Thing. And this sequence is a pretty, I guess it's probably the most suspenseful and shock in the entire movie when Dr. Cooper attempts to defibrillate a lifeless Norris. And at this point, he's going to just shock him, get him back to life. And then that's when like this really cool practical effects, man. It's like these teeth, there's something like come out of Norris's body. It's like his chest transformed into a large mouth essentially, and it bites off Copper's arms. It kills him at this point. It's just for the time, 1982 effects. The effects are really good. It's also like really creepy because you're not expecting this guy's chest to turn into a freaking mouth. And it is super cool. And there's a reason why this movie is raved about to this day and holds up to this day. It's for scenes like this. Just you're going to go shock some guy to bring him back to life 1 minute. Next minute, his chest is eating you just because the thing could be anybody, could be turned into anything. And that's definitely my number 4.
All right. I have to watch that one. I think that one's on my list to watch.
It is.
Okay. My number 4 is Final Destination 3. Now, obviously, I feel like everybody thinks about the logs on the back of the truck.
That's the number 1 thing everybody talks about. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, nobody drives behind those. Every time we see them, we still make comments in the car. But I'm going with number 3 because it has the scene with the malfunctioning tanning bed that kills Ashley and Ashlyn.
It cooks them alive, right?
Yes. So it gets like hotter and hotter. And they basically get cooked to death. But I had always said like I've never gone in a tanning bed before. And to me, they look like coffins. And then when I saw this scene, I was like, well, that just, justified my opinions on why I would never go in a tanning bed. That and skin cancer. Those are the two scariest things. Burning alive in a tanning bed and getting skin cancer. But it was just so creepy because they have like the thing falls on them so they get trapped. Final Destination. They take a lot of liberties and they're like, oh, let me have the cord come out and wrap around somebody's neck, which they also did in Supernatural.
They did, yes.
But then the light bulb starts shattering inside. So they have like glass on them. And like, think how much it hurts when you like accidentally touch like the cookie sheet when it's come out of the oven. So to have that be happening over your whole body and then it explodes in flames.
Well, yeah, they had like blisters all over them. So, oh dude, that was a tough scene. Yeah.
And these girls go in all like, ready to tan and they look so cute and they're all, naked and this and that. And they did not have pretty corpses. So some of the fun facts from this scene, it was just the two girls and like one other person in the room because they were actually nude when they did it. So they did that to avoid any onlookers. The name of the salon is called Phoenix Tanning Salon. So if you didn't pick that up before, that's cute. I see what you did there. Here's a non-related to that scene fun fact. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is in this movie. Harrison Dula, as we now know her.
I totally forgot she was. Yeah.
And she couldn't drive, so they had to use a stunt double for a scene where she had to like pull out of a parking lot.
That's ridiculous.
And my last fun fact is the roller coaster scene. The people had to ride it 26 times.
That would just like, I'd be begging for death at that point. 26 times. That's like, God, after this time, we'll do it again. Oh,
I hope everybody was in their 20s.
Yeah. Well, I have a love-hate relationship with roller coasters as it is because my Final Destination moment is like that thing, the harness is going to come up and I'm going to fucking fall out and die, or like not even die instantly. It's going to be one of those slow, painful deaths and I'm dead at a fucking roller coaster. Like, what a stupid way to die. I don't know why.
I never worry about falling off it. I worry about, because when Rip Ride Rocket came out at Universal, it was on the news, I feel like somewhat regularly, for getting stuck. So every time I go on that ride, I'm like, please God, don't let us get stuck. Please God, don't let us get
There's
stuck.
some of them that like you get pretty close to some other like aspects of the roller coasters. And I'm like, hey, I'm tall as shit. Please don't hit my head and knock it clean off. Like,
I feel like they do. I mean, a carnival, I'd be concerned, but I feel like they take all that into account. Like Velocicoaster, like I'm never worried going a Velocicoaster. That's like the newest one, and that ride is so freaking phenomenal. And you do go like right by the water, and you go right by the other things, and like I never feel unsafe on that. But
it looks closer sometimes, and I'm just like,
Velocicoaster's so good. It gets better as it goes. Yeah, and there's a second one coming out for that soon.
Praise Jesus, we're getting Velocipaster too.
Praise Jesus.
Yeah, so we'll roll into our number 3. What is your number 3 horror movie kill?
So my number 3, I got to go with Quint, because Quint in Jaws may have been crushing the Narragansetts, but Jaws crushed Quint. So one of the things though that makes this kill such a good kill is because the whole movie, you hear the dun-dun, dun-dun. There's no music when Quint gets killed. You just hear the ocean, you hear Quint screaming, you see the terror on his face, and you hear the boat and maybe the bones breaking. I don't know if it's just the boat or if it's also his bones break, but it's a very intense scene. And then you just have Quint, going into the ocean in the mouth of Bruce.
It's very slow.
It's calm. Yeah. It's slow, but it's fast at the same time, weirdly enough. But then you just hear the calmness of the ocean. And, when I first saw Jaws, I didn't think of it as a horror movie. I thought of it as a silly shark movie, but it really is, a horror movie. Here's your second Tim Stanley cameo. That's why Tim doesn't go snorkeling, is because of Jaws. He'll go into the water at the beach, which is where most shark attacks happen. But
unless you can see what's going on underwater if you're snorkeling, Tim. Jesus.
Yeah, Tim. I mean, I've definitely seen more sharks snorkeling than I have at the beach.
Fair.
More shark attacks happen at the beach than they do while snorkeling.
It's also true. Look, these are all hard facts, Tim.
These are the facts, kid.
My number 3 is some little known. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And do my fun facts.
Oh,
so the actor was, when he first shot it, he was completely drunk, and then he came back the next day completely sober, and they took pieces of it. That was actually for when he talked about the USS Indianapolis speech. Where they talked about the oceanic white-tip sharks, which are the sharks that are really the ones you need to be afraid of and not the great white ones.
It's true.
And there was an awesome documentary on Shark Week this past week about the oceanic white tips, which they are the ones that they believed are the ones that ate everybody after that World War II ship went down. And
highly
recommend it. It was a really good documentary. Both of them. There was a documentary about that too called Ocean of Fear in 2007. And then this past year, 2023, there's a documentary about the oceanic whitetips. And they are the ones that the horror movie should be being made about, not the great white sharks. But there you go. That's all I got.
My number 3 comes from a little known film called A Nightmare on Elm Street. It is none other than Johnny Depp, aka Glenn's death. Now, this one sticks out to me because he gets basically sucked into his bed and turned into a blender, and there's just
Johnny Depp does?
Yeah, Glenn.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen the movie?
No, where's my list?
Oh my. All right. Geez, you learn something new every day, folks. All right, yes. So it's according to Wes Craven, however, the blood bursting out of the bed isn't Glenn's. However, it's the blood of all of Freddy's past victims. And in an actual extended scene, when Glenn dies after Mrs. Lance ran away screaming, the body rises out of the hole and fell over dead. But yeah, so Glenn is Johnny Depp. This is like his first big role. He falls asleep and gets sucked into the bed, and it's just like this freaking fountain. It's like the Old Faithful going off, and it's just like this really cool sequence of just blood shooting up to the ceiling and swirling around. It's gruesome. It is absolutely crazy. And it comes just after Nancy figures stuff out about what's going on. And this movie's an instant classic, man. It's a 1984 film. It's the first horror movie that I ever really actually watched. And it's one of my favorite franchises.
I think I've seen clips. Like I think Johnny Depp's wearing like a crop top, right?
Yep. Old Johnny is in a crop top. Absolutely.
And the girl's asleep and then wakes up holding Freddy's hat.
Yep. And the set actually used for the shot was the same rotating beast built to shoot the death scene of Amanda Weiss's Tina, which is another one of the film's most iconic kills. And then in order to create the effect of the blood spewing from the mattress, Craven and crew used the rotating set to shoot the scene inverted, which means the blood is actually coming down from the mattress. Like in the movie, it's shooting up. They filmed it shooting down. And the plan was to control the flow by subtly rotating the set. However, things did not go according to plan. The crew had failed to insulate the countless exposed electrical wires powering every device on set. And they almost electrocuted themselves with fake blood.
Oh my God. What a way to go.
The moving set rotated the wrong direction, which left all the gallons of fake blood to spill everywhere. And it just pushed it wrong. And blood was just everywhere. And all over the electrical equipment, all over the people. It was
Maybe that's what the guy from Country Road Jamboree was singing about. There's blood all around.
Oh God.
Mystery solved.
Yeah.
There's blood on the ceiling.
Number 2 though is from a movie that I don't actually even like. It's from a film called Hereditary, and the character is Charlie. And in this sequence, they're driving down the road, and Charlie sticks her stupid head outside of the car. Her brother swerves to avoid hitting an animal and decapitates her. Because
this is like an urban legend.
Yes, she sticks her head out and gets decapitated. I did not see this coming in the film. Number 1,
I've never seen it.
Like the way it sets up is like the girl's gonna be heavily involved. Yeah, it's not a good movie in my opinion. The people rave about this horror movie. Not good in my opinion. However, it's really very shocking when you just think they're driving, they swerved. It's a jump scare because they swerved to avoid this deer or whatever. And next you know, it just takes her head off and you're like, holy shit, they just decapitated a kid. It's gnarly.
It's a kid?
Yeah, she's like a 10-year-old girl.
Why was she not buckled and in her seat? Why'd she have her head out the window? Oh my God. Yeah, how old is that movie?
It's like not that old. I think Hereditary was maybe a 2014 movie.
Oh, wow. Because I feel like I've heard that before. Like, don't stick your hand out the window. You get it cut off. Don't stick your head out the window. You get it cut off.
It's one of those like irrational fears. It's a 2018 film. Sorry.
Wow. So it's fairly new.
Yeah. It's an Ari Aster film, which again, Alex Wolff plays the brother Peter. And yeah, it's just a gnarly scene, man. Like that's the only way I can put it. It's the highlight of the movie. I can tell you that much. Because again, I don't personally think the movie's very good. And Millie Shapiro plays Charlie, and that's the sequence. So that's my number 2. Now for your number 1. What is your number 2?
Well, I didn't do my number 2. So my number 2 is actually Emma at the beginning of Trick or Treat.
Oh, yeah.
So I love this kill for multiple reasons, but here's your 4 degrees of supernatural. The person who plays her husband, who is inside kind of sleeping and kind of watching porn while she's being murdered, is the angel Gadriel, which you should be getting to him soon if you're not to him yet. So she breaks Halloween rules. So that's the whole point of this movie is Sam, who's named after Samhain, which is the quote unquote origin of Halloween. I'm using that in quotes because it's not a demon at all, even though they try to portray it like a demon. Again, a supernatural episode. And we did a whole Halloween origin episode last year on Samhain, and that's who Sam is named after. So you break Halloween rules and then Sam is coming for you. So she blew out a jack-o'-lantern, which you're not supposed to do, and her husband told her not to do. And she starts taking Halloween decorations down while it's still Halloween.
Again, so another mortal sin.
Exactly. So she gets attacked in a sheet. So Sam's in like a sheet, like it almost looks like a ghost attacking her. And then he stabs her in the neck with a Halloween lollipop. I don't know why, but I love that. And then when Gadriel, or her husband, comes out and he finds her under the sheet with a giant lollipop in her mouth. And so the kill scene has actually been recreated at Horror Nights in both a scare zone and a house, which I feel like that would be the ultimate horror house. I never got to see Trick or Treat as a horror house, but that would be a cool one to see. And the movie is actually based on a cartoon short called Season's Greetings. They were going to name the movie that, but obviously it sounds too Christmassy. So they went with Trick or Treat. And if you haven't seen this movie and you like Halloween and you like horror, I feel like this is like very underrated because it is all the Halloween feels and all the horror feels.
It's a really good anthology movie too.
Yeah. And like, yeah. Oh, and my last fun fact was what I just said, that the it's based on the demon Samhain, but really it's not a demon. It's a holiday of harvesting.
Yeah. What is your number one?
So my number one is from Scream. And one of the reasons why it's my number one is because, well, Scream redefined horror in and of itself, and it's a great kill, but also because Scream was I remember watching Scream when I was 13. Like I distinctly remember going to a friend's house. It was the first, because I'm a summer birthday. It was the first high school thing I did. We're one of those girls' house. We're going to watch Scream. It's Tatum, because Tatum dying in the dog door was
was a hilarious one, man. Yes.
Right. It was hilarious. It was scary. She wasted so much perfectly good beer in that scene, but she also didn't, she seemed like she was a person. I mean, she did drugs and she had sex, so you knew she was going to die, but she also seemed very, badass for this tiny little person. Like she was going to be able, she fought him and she put up a good fight.
She did.
But moments before she enters the garage, the song Drop Dead Gorgeous can be heard playing, and the camera actually lingers on the garage, which is obviously foreshadowing her demise. Tatum Riley is the first character to refer to the killer as quote unquote Ghostface. Okay, we just recorded Josh, and one of the kids' names is Riley, and I wonder how much of that is homage to different horror movies, because even like Billy Loomis is an homage to Halloween. I don't know. That just popped in my head just now. Okay, so in the Scream universe, the fifth film reveals Alicia Silverstone is actually playing Tatum in the 1998 film Stab, which is based on Gail Weathers' bestselling. And there's actually nods to Tatum acting like Alicia in the movie. Like she says as if, and Stu actually says, "Oh, really, Alicia?" So that was a cute little nod back to the movie. And inside, it's like Inception for Easter. Rose McGowan discovered that she could actually fit through the dog door. She was tiny enough to do so. So when they lifted the garage door up, she realized she could get through, but she kept slipping out of the thing. So they had to like fix it so that they had to staple her shirt to it so she couldn't keep slipping out. Yeah. And that's my last fun fact about Tatum's death.
Well, my number one is also from a movie called Scream, the same one. But however, this is actually Casey Becker's death, aka Drew Barrymore. And for this reason is because you're thinking you're going to this movie, she's
on the cover.
Yeah, I mean, Drew Barrymore is billed as at the top, one of the leading actresses of the movie. And so you go in thinking, oh, she's obviously safe. Like it sets up this entire sequence where she gets the phone call. What's your favorite scary movie? Everything about this is just very iconic. And they go through this whole progression. Yeah. Like there's sequences where you're like, oh, she's getting away. She's safe. She's going to be the star of this movie somehow, X, Y, and Z. And so it turns out that she's running, eventually right when her parents are about to get home, they're coming up the driveway and getting stabbed to death, and then hung by a tree. It's very brutal. And her parents see this, and everything about it is just very iconic. When you think of horror movie deaths, you think of Scream and Drew Barrymore. It's perhaps the most iconic in most people's opinions. And this movie also kind of reinvented slashers again too, because it was kind of a dying breed of film. And then we get this. So yeah, that's my number one, because Scream number one is a damn near perfect film. And then number two, it's one of the most iconic deaths you see everywhere. So for that reason, it's my number one. But Scream, again, it's funny that both
I love
of us
that she's
chose.
still on the cover of everything too.
She is. Again, she's
Like,
billed as like this leading actress when Nev Campbell is actually the movie's about her.
So one of the things I got at Spookala is a Scream poster you can see behind me, and what she's at the top. There she is on the phone.
On the phone. Like that's the iconic scene. Like she's on the phone. So
I mean, even though we all know she's still top billed.
She is. And some other, so we asked on our socials, Discord, and some of the answers that we got as far as this were Stacy said Scream 3 when Sydney kills what's his face? Stu, I'm assuming.
I don't know. It was Scream 3. I think it's when she accidentally kills the wrong person.
Yeah, my bad. She said Scream 3.
I think she was trying to keep it vague to not spoil anything for anybody who hasn't seen it.
She also said the log sequence in
Final Destination 2.
Yep. Yes, it's actually Final Destination 2. And our good man DT from Space Castle Pod, he said the defibrillator, geez, if I can talk, and The Thing, or Tina and A Nightmare on Elm Street.
I think you mentioned both of those.
Tina was drug across the ceiling. So her death, I mentioned her death, but she was drug across the ceiling and stabbed and everything. It's pretty brutal. So we have...
Sounds like Mary Winchester.
Our boy Matt from Facebook said Michael in Halloween, who is stabbing Bob to the wall or stapling basically Bob to the wall. He said the Achilles slicing in Pet Sematary.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that. Oh my gosh. I even thought about that when doing my own list, and I was just, I didn't like it.
And he also said the Saw bear trap sequence. And then Josh from, For Nerds by Nerds mentioned Friday the 13th. Part 7, just like I did. However, his was when Jason puts an axe in a girl's face and then throws her behind a TV. Again, this is what I'm saying. Jason has very funny kills. There's things where he smashes people against a tree. There's sequences where he smashes people in the face with an axe. It's all hilarious.
He just does whatever he wants. He's like a toddler.
Charlie actually said the frozen face smash in Jason X. Our boy Chris said the rack kill from Saw 3, which basically this dude gets twisted and turned in so many different ways, and it ultimately rips his body apart. And then Maynard Brewer on Twitter said Linda and Evil Dead 2. And then also our boy DT said Midsummer. Any of the death sequences, you have the dude in the bear costume and gets burned alive, all of that stuff. And
bless you.
Yes. With that is our top 5 kills in horror movies. We saw, we did it. We got 10 episodes till episode 200. Episode 200 is due to release on Christmas Day, actually. So
is it really?
It is. Yes. If you guys,
your Christmas special,
let us know what you want our Star Wars Christmas special, aka episode 200, to be this year.
It's gonna we have to have a cooking show. We need to introduce a new Mandalorian.
We got to do a lot of stuff. We got to do a lot of stuff.
We have to make everybody feel weirdly emotional about a Wookiee character that we're never going to see again.
There's a lot. We got a whole list.
We need somebody awkwardly dancing with some grandpa ogling her.
Yes. We'll do it. Well, send us in some videos. I don't care.
It's a variety show. We're doing episode a variety show.
We're getting real weird with it. Thanks for hanging out with us. And we will see you guys next week with our finale to the spooky season. Check out our socials for what that is going to be. And make sure you check out all of our stuff. Again, subscribe, all of that good things. Check us out on For Nerds by Nerds. You can check us out on Nerd Initiative each and every week, writing really great comic book reviews. And then also we are on Turn a Page, a Nerd Initiative hosted show on YouTube that is live every Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. And with that said, we'll see you next week. Cheers, everybody.